So, hello everybody, how's it going? Mark here, and this is gonna be like an intelligence tier list for Paramod Mordheim. So, the first skill that we have is actually Resist Corruption. The Resist Corruption, the basic one, gives 20% Wordstone resistance, and the Mastery gives 60% Wordstone resistance. But the Mastery, well, the basic one doesn't cost any skill points. And the mastery costs, I believe, 1 skill point, so it's like easy to master. Overall, I don't think like this Resist Corruption is like a bad skill. I would consider picking it up on something like if you happen to have like a free passive slot. I think it's considerable on something like Warp Guard, I think. From the henchman, right? But you could also like take it if you have like a free passive slot on somebody like what do you call them? Like mutants, because mutants like picking up Wordstone. Or you could also pick it up on a necromancer, though the necromancers have kind of like their own passive Wordstone skill. I can also see this being picked up on Ashen Sorcerers, because Ashen Sorcerers also want to pick up Wordstone. And like you really don't want to get, especially in Paramod, like a really bad effect from Wordstone, because it lasts for 3 rounds, right? So you don't want to get those debuffs. So overall, I feel like this sort of a skill is just not bad. It's kind of, it can be like an easy addition for some builds, but I don't think it's bad. The mastery costs 1 skill point. I could maybe like see this being picked up on like an Ashen Sorcerer or something like that, because it's I usually have some leftover points with Ashen Sorcerer, but this doesn't really happen to me with mutants or something like that, but it's definitely usable with mutants. For Necromancer, you're probably better off with the Undead skill. So I think this is just kind of like okay. Like you would prefer not to put skill points into this, but if you happen to have like a leftover skill point, like why not? I believe. Okay, the next skill is called, and I have to check it. Okay. Oh. So this is kind of like a funky thing about the tracker skill. Like, this whole time I thought this was like some kind of like a map or something. But it's actually like a trap. Which makes sense because in vanilla it kind of gave you like more or less useless trap resistance. In Paramod this is a little bit different. The normal the normal version gives you plus 10 initiative, and it's for free to train. The mastery gives you plus 30 initiative, and it costs only 1 skill point. I mean, only 2 skill points because of how Mordheim works. Okay, but just like coming back to the skill, like I think it can be quite nice. Like if you're picking up this sort of a skill, it's because you have like a free leftover passive slot. You usually just want to pick it up when you have some kind of like an initiative situation going on, and you want to put this on a character that you need them to be like a little bit higher. So I could like see this being used on some protective henchmen who are protecting a high initiative target. So overall, I think this is just like also just not bad. The mastery version, it gives plus 30 initiative instead, and it costs, you need to have like 9 intelligence. I kind of just feel like the same way about it. Like ideally you don't want to like put skill points into this whatsoever, but I can like see why you would put it there. Like for example, if you have some kind of like heavy armor caster, you know, so that heavy armor caster stays with you. Like, for example, the Wolf Priest. I could see this being used on like a Wolf Priest, or like a Warrior Priest, or some kind of other heavy armor unit, so that they can go together with your team. So I think this just kind of also ends up being okay for me. Okay. The next two skills that I prepared are gonna be Channeling and Devotion. They kind of do the same thing, but they are not equal because this can be picked up only by the Divine casters, and this can be picked up only by Ritual casters. Ritual. It can be picked up by Arcane casters, and there's like a big difference between the two, I feel. So overall, the unmastered version basically gives you plus 10% spell damage, and the mastery gives you plus 30% spell damage in Paramod for both of them. So channeling, like, I don't think... If you're playing like a damage caster, you're obviously going for the mastery, right? And there's no such thing as a henchman having channeling or devotion. So you kind of like always you don't ever like use channeling or devotion just like the normal version. But when you're actually leveling up a caster, it's a nice stepping stone. It's a nice stepping stone. Because usually the way you want to play casters in Mordheim is you want to hire a hired sword, so that you get so that you get the most expensive skills, and that you get also the most expensive spells, or like the highest damage spells or something like that. And like channeling and devotion are like very nice skills early on that you can go to with your casters, because they're like really cheap to invest into. So this costs like 100 to 300 gold. So it's your next best thing to get. So I think like the channeling ends up being not bad, but again, it is just like a stepping stone for your caster. And the same thing kind of ends up for the devotion. As for the mastery and like damage spellcasters in general. So arcane spellcasters are like I think have like overall better damage potential. And if you're gonna be using a damage spellcaster, of course you want your skills to you want your spells to do even more damage. Right, so I think this obviously just kind of goes into, like, I don't know, I'm thinking like whether to put it into God tier or insane or really good. Because the only sources for spell damage are like the enchantments, it's the intelligence, and then the channeling, right? I mean, I can see this being picked in like all of these. On my warlock, like channeling is God tier, obviously. On other casters, it's not as good, but like if it's a damage caster, you're going to love it. I think it's fine to put it like into like insane, maybe, to like differentiate it a little bit. No, actually, let's put it into God tier. Okay. As for the devotion, I think devotion spellcasters don't deal as much damage, but still, they can still do like a lot of damage and still can be like very, very good. I'm gonna just like put this slightly below channeling, just because I think arcane casters are a little bit better at doing like the damaging spells and stuff. So I'm gonna put this into like insane. And we're just gonna like differentiate them like in this way. Right? Okay, so the next one is Resist Magic. And this skill is like actually really, really good. Even like the basic version and the master version. So the basic version gives you basically plus 15% magic resistance. and the mastery gives you plus 30% magic resistance. That's obviously like really, really good with how deadly spellcasters can be. I usually like picking up the skill on impressives as well, because some of the most debilitating effects can come from spells. So, but I don't think you can also just go wrong with like the normal one. Yeah, it gives you plus 15%. So I think I'm gonna like put this one to good, and this one is gonna be in really good because more magic resistance makes you more consistent at resisting enemy spells. So I think this is really good. Okay. Yeah. Knowledge ambush. I really hate what happened to the skill in Paramod. So in vanilla, this skill used to give you plus 20% melee resistance against an ambush attack specifically. And the mastery gave you plus 40%. In Paramod, this has been changed that whenever you get ambushed, you get plus 2 movement speed. I think it's like for 2 rounds or something like that. And the mastery is that it gives you plus 3 movement speed, but I think no, sorry, plus 4 movement speed, and it's like for 3 rounds. So I kind of like the vanilla version because like yeah, there's also like that alertness skill which also gives you like a melee resistance against ambushes, but you could like stack them together. And you could like make some builds which are focused on eating ambushes, you know, like these ambush eaters. And the purpose of these characters would be to lure in the AI with their ambush into your team, and then you will have like your damage carry like coming in and going for that kill on that ambusher. It's like Ambush Eater is actually like, I think it's kind of like a bad build because you can just, instead of eating the ambush, you can also just break the ambush, right? But just losing that like 20% melee resistance is like a huge deal because the most scary attack of an ambush is the ambush itself because it has like plus 50% damage. So you really, really want to dodge this sort of a skill. And like the Paramount version of the skill, I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever. um, the issue is that like I don't think the skill makes any sense. Like you have to get ambushed in order to get movement speed, but like when you're already ambushed, when you're already in combat, you don't usually need a movement speed because you're already in the combat and you would prefer using your SP on like something else, I guess. Um, I don't know. I think like in Paramount this skill is like a complete meme. I don't think it's very good at all. I think it's really, really bad. Um, the issue there is that Vigilance already existed, so K Ambush was just the same skill in a different stat. Well, I mean, you could stack them is the thing, right? And make them like even better together. So I don't think it was like an issue really. And like when you think about it, like Vigilance only gives you plus 10% melee resistance. Like this gave you like plus 20%. So you didn't even have to like go for the Vigilance. And like in Paramount, like Vigilance still gives you plus 10% melee resistance. So I think I would like prefer this skill to be some kind of like a counter to ambushes and overwatches. Because like this sort of a skill with like a melee resistance could be nice for like, for example, on Novice Sisters or something like that. Um, I can see it. Or I don't think it really makes sense right now. So because I think it's like a meme, um, I kind of wanted to put this originally into horrendous because it doesn't make any sense, but at least it's not overpower, right? I don't know. I guess I respect the meme. I guess I respect the meme. Like, why would you just not go for like knowledge Mordheim instead, so that you have like this movement speed at all times? Because like this is definitely not gonna be picked up by ambush eaters. I don't think it makes sense for ambush eaters to pick it up. Whatever. I'll just put this into like horrendous. I'll put this into horrendous. So, we have the arcane study and divine study. So both of them like kind of do the same thing. The basic version, it doesn't cost anything, which is amazing actually. It's so freaking good. Like wow. But it's you need to have at least 9 intelligence to be able to use it. And it basically gives you 2 additional spell points. For this one, it actually gives you a total of 4 spell points. So, but it costs like 1. It costs 1. It costs 2 skill points, because, sorry. It costs 2 skill points, so it doesn't cost 4. It's easy to master. And, yeah, together you get like 6 spell points. Like, this is obviously like a really amazing skill. You don't want to pick this up on like a normal character. You just want to pick this up, these sort of skills, on characters who are hired swords, so that you get like, because it is so easy to get to invest into these with a hired sword because you get them for free. You also get like some more spells for free, and like just having like a hired sword early on with a mastered damaging spell, it can like completely wreck people and just destroy them. I think these sort of skills are also just like much better for like damaging spellcasters. They really love this. Because like I said, like it gives them the ability to get to the spike earlier. So overall, I think like all of these are actually just like god tier, because yeah, it's like it's so much freaking money. So we have like expert casting and piety. So basically, the basic version gives +5 meters to your ranged spells. And piety, well, piety does the same, and the mastery version gives you +10 meters to your spells. So there's also like another thing that like arcane the arcane spellcasters, for them expert casting is like much better than piety. It's because they have also access to the staff, and like if they stack it together with a staff, you have +16 meters, and that's like a huge deal. Like with arcane spellcasters, it's much easier to make like these sort of artillery spellcasters that force the enemy to come to you, or otherwise you're just going to kill them from far away, you know? And that's like incredibly powerful. Divine spellcasters, they don't really get this benefit, or they can do it, but like those, like every single meter matters when it comes to these like damaging spells. But I suppose like divine spellcasters get like that benefit that they can use like heavy armor or stuff like that. So I think like um the expert one is like really good, and this one is just like god tier. It's just that really good. And yeah, for this one, I'm just gonna like put this a little bit lower, because like I'm saying, like this is basically just for like sisters with their stones. This could be also like relevant for sisters with their silence spell. I forgot the name of it, but they can silence a target like from 40 meters. That's actually like a could be like a counter to these like artillery spellcasters. So I'm gonna put this one also to. I'm gonna put this one to good, and I'm gonna put this one to really good. But like artillery, arcane spellcasters are kind of insane. Okay, next one we have improved casting and improved prayer. So the basic version for the arcane casters, well, both like this is for the arcane casters, this is for the divine casters. Both of them give -5%. They give 5% magic resistance piercing. And the mastery gives you 15% magic resistance piercing. And this one as well. So, actually, like the arcane caster version is better as well, but for like different reasons. We'll get to it. Let's start with like the mastery here. I think it's good. I think it's good because it makes your casters more consistent overall. Like, I believe every Mordheim character has at least +3 intelligence, like innate, right? So that's like 3% magic resistance. And you just remove that like one factor of like people randomly resisting your magic resistance. People randomly resisting your spells because of their like low intelligence or something like that. So it's like it's good because it makes your spells more consistent. And the mastery is, I think it's actually also just, yeah, it's kind of also just god tier. I mean, you kind of just use these skills in combination with each other, right? You just combine them. Like these artillery spellcasters are so freaking powerful, in my opinion. Okay, but like the back to improved prayer, it's still good. Or I would actually maybe put this into like not bad, and this one maybe to. It's also I would put this into not bad. The reason why I'm putting these skills in here is because other casters have like units, other supportive units, which are able to use Sigmarite Warhammers. Yeah, the reason why it's here because the Sigmarite Warhammer exists, and Sigmarite Warhammer is like it's a completely insane weapon. It basically gives in Paramod my -8% magic resistance for 3 rounds. Like, it is so freaking powerful that you can, like, if you have this hammer on every single henchman or like on every single character in your team, you can just like delete somebody's magic resistance, right? So if you can delete somebody's magic resistance, like you don't really have a reason for like magic resistance piercing skill anymore. And the thing is that yeah, like every other warband can use like novices. They can also use warrior priests with those hammers, and they can also use, I believe, Sister Superior also has access to them. So it's not as necessary as like improved casting, like yeah, basically. Like I can still see the skill being used on like a wolf priest if you don't want to use the Sigmarite Warhammers or like any members of those. I can see this being used on a ranged wolf priest spellcaster, but other than that, I don't really see the point. But it's not bad. Like I don't think you can go wrong with this skill, really. Like also not to mention like most of the older spellcasters they have most of the divine spellcasters they have a lot of buffs rather than debilitating effects, right? So okay, so next one is actually Knowledge Mordheim, and this is actually like really amazing skill. Um, yeah, it basically gives you +1 movement, and the mastery version gives you +2 movement instead. Like, so here's like an interesting thing to think about, like knowledge Mordheim. Knowledge Mordheim is not just an increase to your movement. This also buffs your charge range. This also buffs your ambush range, and it saves you also more strategy points overall. Like the more movement you have, the easier time you have like saving up strategy points. So this skill becomes really amazing. Uh, for like, I think like everybody can use it. The only like downside is that not every character can afford to go 9 intelligence. But if you can, it's like this is like really amazing. So also additionally, some like heavy armor henchmen can also like this. So like the heavy armor henchmen, they can use like armor proficient and knowledge more time, and they are not affected by like the heavy armor penalty movement, right? So it's really good overall. I think this can also just go like easily into the god tier. It also helps you with like looting houses. Like you can see immediately the difference when you have 7 versus 6 movement speed. Like this is why also like Skaven are so freaking good, is because they have +2 additional movement over other warbands. Okay, but back to the tier list, the mastery version. The mastery version, I would say it's like not as good because not every character can afford to go for like 15 intelligence. For some characters, it's not possible, but still, it's like still like a really good pickup. And you will still see like the difference between like having like the normal knowledge more time and like the mastery version of knowledge more time. You will feel the difference as well. This is also like this can be also like a very good alternative to armor proficient for spellcasters, right? For heavy armor spellcasters such as warrior priest, so that you are not affected by your heavy armor anymore, right? And this also like gives you some flexibility with the armor, because you can use just like in some cases you can choose to use like leather armor, and in that case you have like +2 movement speed. So yeah, and like some also like some heroes struggle to get to 15 strength, but like 15 intelligence for them is totally doable. So yeah, I'm gonna put this. I kind of just want to put this into like insane or really good. Like I would consider twice if I really need the skill or not. Mm, I think we can put this. I don't know. Maybe here. Hmm. I mean, Skaven are insane because they have like +2 movement speed. And like another thing is like the intelligence stat, the stat itself. Like you are never ever going to regret like putting points into intelligence, because it's like such an amazing stat. It not only gives you additional magic resistance, it also gives you like range resistance and like also like stun resistance, like as a bonus, you know? So you cannot go really wrong with investing into intelligence. Um, yeah, I guess. Master is kind of must have if you can afford, but I don't think you would give up key skills for it, so I think really good is accurate. Mm, I guess it's kind of like fair. I think there is like a difference. Mm. Okay, I guess you guys persuaded me. I'm gonna like put this into like really good. But it's definitely going to like save up like the SP for you. And like maybe I also just put like devotion down like a little bit. Yes. I mean it can get insane. Nah, I'm just gonna put this also to really good. Yeah. Let's put it like this, something like this. Okay, so knowledge tactics. I think knowledge tactics is just basically for the most part it's a more expensive flash parry. And like because the basic version gives you plus 15% parry and plus 15% dodge, and this one gives you plus 45% parry and plus 45% dodge. I mean, it is basically like it is a more expensive version of flash parry, and it is arguably a better version of what do you call it? Avoid. Um, I mean, I can see this being like used on some spellcasters who struggle with not having enough points in weapon skill, such as Warlock, or I can also see this being used. I mean, Flash Parry is enough because that's like 9 weapon skill, but also like the agility part, like I can see this being used on characters who struggle to get to 15 agility, and this also maybe like some spellcasters, and to make like their parry and dodge more consistent. There's also like the argument, right? If you're going against Daredevil characters, it may help against Daredevil characters. But like, I don't know. I almost never use this skill, to be honest. I could also maybe like see this being used on like Maiden, maybe. I don't know. Like I almost never use this. You could also maybe use this on like Captain, but I don't think this is like a bad skill. But it costs like money and a lot of intelligence. And if you're like picking up this sort of a skill, you're gonna be using it on like a melee character, I think. I think you're gonna be like using it on a character that you don't mind going melee with. And still, in that case, like, can you afford like 15 intelligence with that character? I mean, you can do it with Magister, and then he can also pass that terror test. I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of put this into like not bad, and the mastery also to not bad. Yeah, but like not every like sidestep character is able to invest like into 15 intelligence, I guess, is my thing what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I almost never use this. It's not bad. Let's just put this kind of like the top of not bad, maybe. But practically speaking, I almost never use this. Okay, so this skill. Oh, this is study. So like study doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I believe it costs like 2 strategy points, and you need to be like within 15-meter range of the enemy to apply a buff to yourself. You have to target an enemy to apply a plus 20% parry and plus 20% dodge. And the master gives you plus 40% parry and plus 40% dodge, but for 3 rounds instead. So, and the requirements for this skill is like 3 and 9 intelligence. So overall, I just think this skill, it doesn't make any sense. Because like in order for you to use this skill, you have to first get incredibly close to the enemy. It's like 15 meters. Like you're almost like breathing at the neck of the enemy, right? So like you use this skill, and then what do you do? What do you do with your remaining SP? Do you just like stand there and just like go into a stance? Or do you approach the enemy without any stance because you don't have like SP anymore because you used your SP already on this skill? And like I don't think this skill is even comparable to like Flash Berry or Avoid, as like Para is saying, it is like a Flashberry slash avoid but active. Like, no, it's not really at all, because you can only use this when you are when you are disengaged. You cannot use this in combat. So like imagine that like the enemy engages you. Like you cannot use this skill anymore. You cannot make your, like, imagine that you're using this because you want to make somebody more consistent at parrying and dodging, right? But like what if like such a situation happens that you get like caught off guard and the enemy engages you and you never got the chance to use the skill whatsoever? Like you're gonna have like minus 20% parry and minus 20% dodge that you needed to take, but you just don't have it. And another thing is, yeah, like so, like what do you do then when the enemy engages you? Do you like disengage? Do you then like move a little bit closer to apply this and then re-engage and then use the stuns? Like it doesn't make any sense. Or like imagine that you are like stuck somewhere between like two enemies or between an enemy and a wall. You cannot use your like dodge and parry increasing skill anymore. The skill doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And this actually also makes me feel bad for the knowledge ambush where they put this into horrendous, because it's not that bad. Like it's not as bad as study, because study just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, in my opinion. This is just like really horrible. It's completely useless. Uh, it doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. Yeah. So battle plan, battle plan. The basic version gives you +1. Well, you apply with like 3 SP. You give to somebody like 1 OP, right? And with the mastery, give instead +2 OP. So like the basic version, I think this is just kind of bad. I think like henchmen struggle to use this skill, and if you're like making some kind of like a weird battle plan build, you're probably just gonna go for the mastery. So like the question is like, can for example like ranged henchmen use the skill, like support archers for example? But like support archers are kind of already like so like SP heavy, so like how do you use this? And you cannot use the skill when you are engaged, so it's not like for a melee henchman. I think this skill just kind of ends up being bad because of it. Like I cannot imagine like using the unmastered version on anybody. I mean, yeah, I think this is just kind of bad. Um, okay, like the mastery. The master gives you +2 offense points, and like the funny thing is like the description of the skill, because it tells you that it gives you like OP for a counter attack, but like you don't have to use this for counter attack. You can also just use it for like normal attacking by delaying, you know. So I don't know like why the description is like so weird. Um. Maybe like the developers struggled to see like why this skill could be useful, so they had to like add the counterattack part. but I think it's, if anything, it's just like kind of misleading people to what this skill can actually do, right? And like being able to convert your SP to offensive points can be like incredibly powerful. I mean, like OP is damage, right? And there can be like some like weird builds. I can totally see there being like some kind of like a weird warband who like builds around this battle plan thing, and I can see this being like really insane and like really freaking powerful. But I haven't seen this warband yet. I believe like Kitten Paw was making like a warband like this. I haven't seen it actually properly in action, to be honest, but I think this has like a lot of potential, really. This can be like really, really freaking powerful. And like even also just kind of like using those OPs for counterattacks, I don't think that's like a bad idea. I could also maybe like see this being used on, what do you call it? Maybe you could also use this on like sniper shot archers, right? To restore their OPs. I could see that. Or like also using it on like spellcasters to restore their OP and to cast like even more spells, but casting more spells is like problematic in itself. So I think the potential of the skill is like insane, but you have to have like a very, very specific warband that can take advantage of the skill. Yeah. I mean, this is also like a good alternative to, what do you call it? To order, right? Like heroes cannot take an order, but heroes can take a battle plan. So I'm gonna like put this kind of deck really good, in my opinion. Right. Combat savvy, like AI just loves the skill, I think. I usually just see like AI using the skill and they really, really love it. Basically, it's like a buff that you give to a different character, and it basically gives plus 10% melee resistance for 2 rounds. And the master gives instead plus 15% melee resistance. But for 3 rounds. I think it's just kind of good. Like if you're gonna be using the skill, you're using it to buff your melee resistance tank to be even more consistent. And like I can see the skill being like especially nice for melee resistance henchmen, because melee resistance henchmen have the issue that they are not able to generate as much melee resistance as like heroes, right? I can see this being used. Like I think it's just kind of good. Or you know what? I think like a more, like I don't think it's bad exactly. I think like the top of not bad is more appropriate, really. Because there is that one thing that it can get kind of awkward trying to use this with free SP, and once you're engaged, you cannot use it anymore. So yeah. And this one, I personally like, I don't think there's like any point in trying to stack like the basic version and the mastery version for 25% melee resistance. You can do it, but I don't know. I think this one is just like the duration kind of matters because it's hard to apply. Like it's not like a sort of a thing like feint which you can apply every single time. So like duration here actually matters. It's not irrelevant. Um Probably just gonna like put this into like bottom of not bad. Oh, but this skill, I think it's called exploit positioning. Yeah. Um, so I don't really understand the point of exploit positioning. I have actually like used it in a build before to stack it together with an insult, but I don't think it really just makes sense. I think it's just better to go for insult. Like exploit positioning gives a debuff to the enemy and it gives them minus 10% melee resistance for 2 rounds. And the mastery version gives minus 15% melee resistance. So yeah. I don't think it's I don't think there's really a point to using it or like stacking it together with insult. Insult is just kind of better because like both of these skills you have to use at like a 15-meter range. And like if you get engaged by the enemy, you cannot use the skill anymore. So it gets kind of awkward. Um maybe it has like if it had like some kind of like a better range than like a way better range than insult, maybe then it could be considerable. But I don't really understand this skill. I don't really understand this skill. Oh, like this one's it's still like usable. You can use it, but why not just go insult instead? I'm not sure. And as for the mastery, I'm gonna put this also into kind of bad. Like, why would I use it? Yeah, so the next one is actually quick casting. And a quick casting, like the basic version, and also like quick prayer. Because both of them give minus 15% spellcasting chance, and the master gives you minus 5% spellcasting chance. I think like overall, like this one, that minus 15% spellcasting chance, it can be very noticeable. You can like you can fight it with like consumables such as the what do you call the one? The arcane focus or something like that. I think it's called like arcane focus or something like that. It gives you like plus 10% spellcasting chance. And also like there's also the potion of spellcasting which gives you plus 15% spellcasting chance, but you obviously cannot use like potion of spellcasting every single time for PvEs. It's more of a like a PvP thing. But overall, like this skill, I think if you want to use quick casting on arcane casters, you're probably just going for the mastery version because that minus 5% chance to your spells is a lot more manageable for your spellcasters. I mean, it's still really good. It's still like really powerful to be able to get some kind of a discount, especially if when you're like leveling up your mage, right? Because you get 9 OP only at level 10. And just being able to like get like 3 lightning strikes instead of 2 lightning strikes, it can be like very relevant. So I'm gonna put this into good. And this one is like, I think it's like completely insane, to be honest. It's so freaking good. It's like I've had turns where I was able to like put in like 4 lightning strikes instead of like just 3 lightning strikes, and it's like it's so much damage overall. And you can also get if you have like the rune of innervation, you are even able sometimes to get like 5 lightning strikes in total. It can get like completely crazy, like with how much you can do with one spellcaster. It's it's also like a great alternative to adrenaline rush because you don't get like minus 30 to your health, right? And here's the thing. Here's the difference between like Adrenaline Rush and quick casting, right? With Adrenaline Rush, you cannot cast Fireball 3 times in a row. With quick casting, you can do that, and that can be completely deadly to the team. So I think like quick casting is like one of my favorite skills, really. This just kind of like this just goes for me to God's tier. Okay. But for the quick prayer is actually a little bit better. It's a little bit better because the silver lining here is that it can be also used by a warrior priest. And warrior priest does not have an issue with minus 15% spellcasting chance because they can melee attack somebody. So yeah, the warrior priest basically has this benefit. So I think this one goes like to the top of good, and this one is like at the bottom of good because of that. And the mastery here, like you will probably also use this on like damage spellcasters. So this should also be like really freaking good. Oh, and this especially. Oh, also like this. Actually, this one should go to the really good. And let me tell you why. It's because Maiden exists. And Maiden with this skill is like can be completely insane because she is able to cast her spells with SP instead of OP because she has like the discount of 1 to every single spell. So I think this is like even better than like quick casting. Like quick prayer is like much better skill. And obviously if you like want to be because I said that like the devotion damage spellcasters are not as good. I mean, I think like even like the devotion spellcasters with like damaging abilities can get like completely insane. Like I can see like warrior priest with his like damaging AoE like, dealing a lot of damage. Like it's very relevant. And for that you would like to have like quick casting. Quick prayer, right? And you cannot use introspection when you're like in melee combat, but you can use like quick prayer. So I'm gonna put like quick prayer to God tier as well. I can see also like quick prayer working incredibly well with the, what do you call her? The Sigmarite woman that leads the warband. Yes, like Sigmarite matriarch like loves this skill, I think as well. Like it's gonna be like so many like melee attacks and stuff. It's gonna be like really good. I think this is like also easily like a god tier skill. And I kind of like persuaded myself to put like the devotion back in. Okay, so plea. We have a plea and wild casting. So plea gives you plus 10% casting chance, but it increases divine wrath by 15%. And this one gives you plus 20% casting chance and plus 5% divine wrath chance. Wild casting does the same thing, but it's like the Tzeentch's curse. There is also like quite a bit of a difference between these two skills. So I think I'm gonna like prefer to start with wild casting. Like realistically speaking, you would probably pick up wild casting on a character like Doomweaver. But would you? Because I feel like you don't need. I think you're just better off if you want to trigger as many Tzeentch's curses as possible with a Doomweaver. I think you're just still better off like going for like quick casting and just casting like as many possible with like quick casting instead. I think this is just like a much better alternative to wild casting. And like the arcane spellcasters, they really don't want to get affected by the Tzeentch's curse, but they usually also don't really have any skills that they really need to land. I have used this skill once, actually, on a Doomweaver, but that was like a very special Doomweaver, so it is kind of usable. But I'm gonna like put both of them to kinda bad. And probably this one too. I mean, it's definitely not like knowledge ambush. Okay, I'm just gonna like put this like I think both of them are just kind of bad and like a trap. But like this sort of effect can be just you can just use what do you call it? Just use like a potion. Just use a potion. Use a spellcasting potion or use that etheric focus. Etheric focus gives you plus 10% spellcasting chance, and you can use it as many times as you want. You're free to use it. So I think you're just better off doing that. And you can like even prepare it beforehand before going into combat or something. So yeah, I think it's just kind of bad. For this one though, I think this actually matters a lot more. I think the basic version especially. And this is like especially more useful for divine casters because their most expensive spells are like healing spells. So in those cases, you really, really want to have like a 95% spell casting chance to try to make your healing spell work. You really, really want this. It's like it's called plea, and it like fits really well because you're just praying that your heal actually goes off. I think in those cases it's actually like really usable skill. I think this is just kind of like not bad for those situations. And this is also I think usable on warrior priests. Um I guess one thing I should mention about like healing skills in Paramod, like in Paramod you get to heal only once, which I think is I don't really like the design that if you fail the cast, you also lose the spell. I feel like if you fail the cast, you should keep the spell, but if you manage to cast the spell, you don't keep it. Because like the punishment of failing like a healing spell is already that you use like so many OPs to cast the healing spell. Yeah. So this is yeah, I think this is not bad. Uh and I think like the mastery hmm, I think this is like I can understand why you would use it, but I think you can just for like casting those healing spells, you can just combine it with the prayer beads. So I probably wouldn't invest into this. Okay, so next one is actually introspection, and like I think I just kind of sorry, I just kind of need to adjust myself. I kind of just like ignored this skill more or less. I have used this skill on like a charging marauder before. It was kind of like a meme, to be honest. It was fine. It was fine. But like, I cannot imagine like using this skill on like, because Keaton was saying that you can like use the introspection unmastered on like archers, and that he cannot not take it on archers. Like, I cannot see it. I mean, Kitten Paw like swears by the skill, but I've never like even seen this being used properly or like anybody using it really. I only just use this on like a marauder. I think like for like the way I feel about the skill, if I wasn't being like brainwashed by the guys here in the chat, I would probably just put this into like okay, I guess. I guess. Yeah, I will just put this here because I don't think I have like enough experience really with this skill. Like I barely ever see it really. So this is just kind of like how I feel about this. But for the mastery version, like Leis was saying, I think this can go well with like Hunter Marksman because they can get like they can make up for those OPs. And they can get like another shot in. So I think this is like okay. I have like a thing. I've never actually seen this in proper use, but I would assume this is like. The thing is that this sort of a skill also can. It's also like a good alternative for those artillery mages that I talked about, and I put those artillery mages into God tier. Right, because I think that they're just that powerful, and I also put like quick casting into God tier. Um, but because I haven't really seen the skill all that much, I'm gonna just put this into the top of really good. If I use this skill more and I had like a better feel for it, I think it would be easier for me to evaluate if this is like truly if it is God tier skill, which the way I look at this like quick casting and this, I can totally see it. I can totally see this being God tier. Or if it's just like kind of like good, like neat thing to have. But like more damage is always better in my opinion. So I think I'm just gonna put this at the top of really good. Meditation. So the basic meditation, this is also like a sort of a skill I didn't really pay a lot of attention to, but actually I just kind of just started to pay attention to this skill after I was playing some PvP with Hada. Hada actually just he really loves this skill. I think he just puts this on like almost like every single henchman which goes like at least 9 intelligence. He really loves this skill. But yeah, like this can like give you like a lot of movement and like just being able to like reach your target and like pin it down, it can be like incredibly valuable. And also like I think this can be also especially nice for melee resistance tanks because they don't really do all that much with their offensive points. And if this meditation allows you to get yourself into a proper stance, like a sidestep. Like I think that's extremely relevant. I find he usually just gets the unit kill faster. Yeah, he like Hada just loves this skill. He uses it on like every single character. And I don't think it's bad. Like I think it's like pretty good actually. I think yeah, that's kind of just how I feel like. I think this is genuinely like a good skill. Like you often find yourself like in situations where you don't do anything with your offensive points, so you get like meditation, and you can just get more skill points and stuff. Skill points, strategy points. I don't know, like top of good or like really good. Oh, whoopsie, where did I put it? Oh, here. I'll put this into really good in Hada's honor. I think it's better than Knowledge Mordheim. I mean, I can see it being better than Knowledge Mordheim because like the passive skill slots are so extremely competitive and like sometimes you just cannot like put in Knowledge Mordheim. But also like Knowledge Mordheim is so freaking good. Yeah. But for the mastery, I don't know. I kind of like the kitten's example on using it on somebody like what do you call her, Sister Superior, because that's also like a thing that I theorized as well that it could be like a nice skill on the Sister Superior so that she doesn't get left behind your warband, and she's still able to catch up with your warband. But other than that, maybe you could also use it with this skill, right? With the combination of battle plan. And that could be also relevant. But I almost like never see the skill, to be honest. Yeah, it's good for looting in PvE. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like meditation also, like the basic version, it feels so freaking nice for looting in PvE. But I don't know if I would like 6 skill points. Definitely, I probably wouldn't use this in PvP. It would be maybe like some kind of a meme looting build in PvE, I guess. I don't really ever see the skill really, so I don't pick it up either. So I think it just kind of ends up being, it's like okay, like it doesn't excite me. Okay, and the last skill we have is Let's Got Talent, the best skill that everybody loves. So the trick with Let's Got Talent is that you don't ever build it on like a normal unit. You just build this on henchmen who are hired swords who have at least level 6. Because hired swords, henchmen with at least level 6 have 6 skill points, and this allows you to master Let's Got Talent. And by mastering Let's Got Talent, you get 1 million skill points, and you get them for free because it's a hired sword, so it's completely insane. It's also incredibly cheap. You basically get like a 3,000 gold character for 800 gold or like 700 gold. It's completely insane. I'm gonna put this into like the top of god tier, because it's kind of where it belongs. Obviously, like not every Let's Got Talent henchman was born equal, because we're obviously thinking about marksman here. But yeah, and this one is just this one is just bad, but at least it's not study. Yeah, this is like economy in Mordheim matters. That's why like these skills are like up here. They're like amazing. Yeah. Also, like Let's Got Talent, henchmen, they achieve 9 offensive points earlier than the heroes, than the leader.